Welcome back to the Four Podmen, the wrestling podcast we bring you each and every week on the Dynamo Podcast Network. Head over to YouTube, smash that subscribe and bell notification button, and also share any previous episodes if you would, please. Audio versions of the show are available on Anchor, and if you'd like to contact the show, you'll find us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, the Four Podmen. Joining me tonight for a review of the latest Hell in a Cell, the DOGG. How we doing, Jay?
Oh, fuck yeah. As you know, went in, got a little jab for myself today for, whatever this bullshit is going on. So I'm halfway there. Whoa, living on a prayer,
Yeah.
Happy enough with it.
We haven't spoke to the Podfather yet about the whispers of Dallas yet, but that's for an off-camera discussion. We had a good chat today about Dallas next year, potentially.
I am all about Texas.
Awesome.
Everything's bigger in Texas.
All my exes live in Texas.
Also joining me, the Podfather of the network, Ian the Diego Maradona Kelly. How are we, Ian?
I'm very well, thank you. I'm very well. No complaints at all. I haven't got a jab yet, but I'm still well.
The beef is the beef is away at the moment, preparing the catering for us.
I gave him an actual jab, and now he's in.
Yeah, but no need for our viewers to worry. We didn't actually fire him. He's just getting annoyed off.
Definitely not fired. He's not fired.
No,
absolutely. So yeah, lads, we said we'd go through Hell in a Cell that happened on Sunday night. Overall opinions, I thought it was a solid wrestling event with a few quirky kind of finishes, but certainly the quality of wrestling was without doubt was pretty good, considering it was, again, I would call another one of these kind of throwaway pay-per-views really after Mania, and a tough one to kind of set you on the path to SummerSlam, really,
The big four are the big four, and then there's throwaways, yeah.
Yeah, the big four are Fastlane, Backlash,
Cyber Friday,
Taboo Tuesday.
What was the other one? Great Balls of Fire.
Great Balls of Fire, yeah. Great Balls of Fire. Yeah. Oh,
Goodness gracious.
Jesus. Don't even talk to me. Jay, overall thoughts on the pay-per-view?
I enjoyed it. It was a good, solid performance. It seems to me now that the company has realised the separation between the weeklies and the pay-per-views is long overdue, and they're getting back to what I enjoy about it, which is professional wrestling.
Yeah, I got the feeling as well. I'll go to it in a second, but I got the feeling you could watch this stand alone and still just enjoy it as a show.
Yeah.
Even if you knew nothing about the storylines. A matter of fact, the more you know about the storylines, the less quirky the finishes look. So the less you know about the storylines, the better when you're watching this one.
Yeah, just watch the pay-per-views. WWE do a good enough job with vignettes that you don't need to know. Do you know what I mean?
You don't.
Yeah.
You don't.
Let's kick it off, Jay. Mandy Rose versus Natalia.
What? No, it was Belair versus.
That was actually the kickoff show.
We don't do kickoffs here. Me and Jay don't do kickoffs.
Was that the Facebook prelim? I missed that one.
It was a solid enough match anyway. You'll be glad to know we're playing.
Well, that with Natalia involving Natalia is going to be.
You got Natty in there. I mean, it's shining light in the dark match. Do you know what I mean?
Right. So let's kick off with the main
after the credits have rolled.
Bianca Belair versus Bayley, Hell in a Cell.
I love Bayley. I fucking love her. If you'd asked me this a year ago, I would have said next. But I mean, the camera eats her up with a fucking spoon. Even her
match of the night for me.
And a good kind of tacticky kind of match. You know what I mean? Little things they were throwing in there, like when how long have I been asking for somebody to use Belair's hair as a weapon against her, and here you've got that fucking Lou lad throwing it to her chair and everything, standing on it like, and just there's little things. The wrestling was fine, everything was fucking excellent. The character.
How bad are the commentators?
Impeccable.
How bad are they? Like I actually heard this I must have heard it on every match at least 3 fucking times. Michael Cole, I mean, how that man is still there?
He's garbage. He's
like,
fucking garbage.
He turned around and says, Bianca Belair is already becoming a seasoned veteran. How the fuck do you already become a seasoned veteran? That's like telling a fucking 2-day steak that it's now 28-day matured. Like, it's literally ridiculous. And then a seasoned, and it was the whole way throughout the show. A seasoned veteran move, a veteran move, and I was just like, "Oh my god!"
I think it's high time that the company start giving him the old JR treatment and just treat him like a jackass.
Like, deserve it. Like,
no, start making him a clown. Start making you. Well, I will say this about the commentary is I think Kev came in at one stage during and he's like, "Your man's all right, isn't he?" I'm like, "No, there's only 2 of them on the desk." He's like, "No, there's more than 2," and I'm like, really?
Pat McAfee done a decent job. I like him.
Like him.
He gets the business funny. More than anybody.
But he comments. He runs commentary to us like he's a fan, like he's watching it on the box.
Yes.
On his own.
Yes.
You know, load it up on Banger and just
yeah, definitely.
It's like he's nearly doing a watch along, isn't it, for the YouTube channel or something?
Yeah, that's what I mean. It's like
Corey Graves even becomes monotonous after a while, doesn't he? Like he's fallen into the trap of just being monotonous. You know what I mean?
He's become too rigid. He's trying to be the go-to company man. He's like, you know, it's fair enough you have an anchor on the desk, but it shouldn't be somebody so young and with a man who used to formerly be quite colourful on the desk. Yeah. He's become very, I want to be the new Michael Cole. I want to be the go-to guy who's the institution. It's like, no, pal, you're too young and Michael Cole's going nowhere for another 5 years.
It's like he's trying too hard to be Jesse. He's trying too hard to be Jesse and trying too hard to be Bobby. And it's kind of like, it doesn't seem natural. Yeah. It seems forced.
Yeah, if you're going to be a colour guy, be colour guy, but don't try to be straight and colour at the same time. And don't flip from babyface to heel on the commentary desk. You're either one or the other. I mean, or impartial and between one of the other. Be the middleman.
He's trying to be that kind of likable, smart arse, isn't he?
Yeah.
You know, it's funny. We have a like we go back to one of the previous episodes there where we done on the Bulldogs. You know, the Bulldogs. I remember even Dynamite in his book said that they used to go up to Jesse before the show and be like, "Be nice to us tonight, right? Be nice to us tonight.
Don't slay us."
And it was like Jesse loved them, so he's like, "Don't worry, I've got you." But lads have been queuing up to Jesse, going like, "If you fuck Jesse over, forget about it. You were getting slaughtered."
Well, what can you do? Not only is he going to bury you with words beyond being able to be dug out, but he's also a fucking former Delta operative or Navy SEAL or wherever the fuck he was, a frogman.
Jesse might be the toughest lad in wrestling history, realistically.
Former army man, tough lad, former fucking, you know, Billy Graham fucking idol and former bleeding Mongol.
Carry a concealed license.
Yeah, former 1% Mongol / governor of Minnesota. It's like, it's around you haven't been yet, Jesse. I was in Predator. Yes, you were.
And you were fucking awesome in it.
Yes, you fucking were. Please be nice to me. I'm a nice guy.
He's getting it. He's getting his own show one day.
Look what happens when you disrespect the sales, huh?
Oh.
The less said about that, the better.
Fuck you, Bradley Cooper.
Well, I mean,
Bradley Cooper's all right.
Fuck him. He decided to portray that jabroni. He's no good in my book.
Remember when we tell you that?
Fuck you, Chris Kyle. Take me to court.
Hulk Hogan and Terry Bollea are not the same guy.
He is him. Definitely not in court.
They are the same. Everyone's the same now.
Boku.
What's up is down now.
Yeah. So where were we? Hell in a Cell, yeah?
No, actually, I'd like to kind of also chime in on that. I honestly did think it was match of the night. I thought it was absolutely phenomenal.
It was excellent. It was a great opener.
They used the cage as a gimmick when they needed to. The story that they were telling in the ring was awesome. The only thing that still grinds my gears, and it's no one's fault, is this whole premise of, you know, putting the ladder on top of someone, and when you see Bianca go up, I was like, oh, good Lord, she's going to do a 450 or something, smash her fucking elbows. You know, because even in the right mindset, you're like, everyone knows the logic behind that is that isn't going to hurt the person underneath. All they have to do is just hold our own. You're getting smashed here. That's not just her. Oh,
little
yeah.
power bomb she gave her into the side of the case? That was so neat and excellent looking. I'm like, why haven't we seen that before? Well done, girls. Well fucking
Isn't
done.
that great booking though by the guys behind to book Bianca in with solid workers like like Bailey, and you can see Bianca growing in confidence.
She can hold her own. She can hold
Yeah.
her own. You know
Getting
what?
better.
I'd love to see her fade out of that fucking hair thing. I'd love to see her get rid of that. I mean, obviously it's inevitable, but it just takes away from her as a performer going to it as a whip and stuff like that. It's like it's unnecessarily ludicrous for a girl who's a fucking powerhouse and can go and has a little finesse and skill to her as well. It's not like she's just, I'm huge and I'm gonna powerbomb everybody. She can fucking go.
Yeah, like it's like Hogan when he used to, like he used to do the back rakes and the fucking rope burns. And you're like, don't be using heel move.
You mean his whole 10-year run?
Yeah, you're using the whole fucking heel move. You know what I mean? Although the iron on the back of Earthquake was warranted, but look, that's a story for another day. That's a story for another day. But no, we thought, like, I'll be honest with you. I think pound for pound, I think Bailey is right up there.
She's just a star. I mean,
Without
even
a doubt.
shouting out to Michael Cole, talk about me, Michael. Talk about me. She's just so funny. Whenever you hear too much commentary coming out of a person in the middle of a match, you're like, take it seriously. But when she's talking, you're like, I'm fucking listening.
She's very good, man. Like, and she's like very, very. She's not just a solid wrestler. She's a great worker. Her and Shayna Baszler are two personal favorites of mine. Like, everything they do just looks snug. We'll come to Shayna later, but I just love the way Bailey works. I think I don't know. I don't even think they know what they have with her. She can do anything they throw at her. Do you know what I mean? And I think that's the epitome of, like, not just a wrestler, but also a superstar,
She is. She's minted. She's money.
Put together as well. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, that girl squats for days. You can see it in her. Like, that's all I'm saying.
Yeah, I love them. I love the way she keeps on, this new character that has evolved. And she's kind of like, she keeps on saying to Bianca, like, how you doing, champ? And all this. She keeps on emphasizing this champ and champion.
Chad and Briggs, yeah. What's up, champ? What's up, champ?
But she's just belittling her all the time about being champion. How are we doing today, champ?
You asked for this, champ. You asked for this.
Yeah. She's so good at that. I also love the way Bianca actually set up the ladder as well, for the finisher. I thought that was really cool, like, because it just slid it right down. It was awesome.
Also, little things that I noticed as well, just I suppose just from my perspective, I loved every time Bailey got thrown into the cage, man. She reminded me so much of guys like Michaels and Brett and Taker when they used to get thrown into it. Like, they'd use the hair as a thing, but it looked like she was legit getting fucked into it. How many times do you see that the hands over the face because they don't want to, like, lose an eyelash or something, like, and that goes for the guys too.
I get you. Yeah, she has situational awareness. She knows what to do, what she's doing, when to do it. Yeah.
It was just great, like, tiny little things that I was noticing in her work. Like, she's just flawless. She is, as far as, like, her and Natalia, I suppose, are probably the excellence of execution in the female division. Realistically, I don't see them hit bum moves. Do you know what I mean? And I think even Bailey maybe more so now because her stock is just going up and up. She's just so good.
We're actually, in terms of the women's division in there at the moment, we're actually quite spoiled as fans, really, aren't we? In terms of
ridiculous,
like, and stuff like that. It's unbelievable, like.
Yeah.
And long may it continue.
But like Kigo said, if you're a male and you wear a Hugger t-shirt, fuck off.
I don't know. You do sound very much like you're becoming Hugger fans at the moment.
Oh, well, I wouldn't be wearing a Hugger t-shirt. I'd give her a hug, but I wouldn't be fucking wearing a Hugger t-shirt.
Global goddamn pandemic. I haven't caught the Rona once. You know what I mean?
Twice, and I'm still going. So.
I've parked up the hugging.
It's all good now. You got vaccine.
Been hugging the China virus since day one.
Only half. I don't want to have the Rona on just this half of me. I'm all fucked up over here, but you see over here, fuck yeah, I can drink for days. Drink for days out of this side of my face.
I've had too many intimate moments with that China virus, so I'm out. I'm done now.
Let's move on, lads. Cesaro versus Seth Rollins, which I think just by the natural makeup of the match, you're going to get a solid match anyway.
Yeah.
Jay, what was you thinking on this one?
Again, brilliant. I mean, just again in the layout of the card, following up a solid opener.
Wrestling match, yeah.
Yeah, we're following it up with something equally as viable and viewable. It wasn't just, here's a great match. Now here's some slop. Go get yourself some popcorn, people. We'll have another great one in 25 minutes.
Don't tune out.
Yeah, it was more wrestling, and these two men, they're lifetime greats. There's not one aspect of, it wasn't like they got to a point where they've become greats. Just whatever they do, whenever they do it, and however they do it, it doesn't matter. You're watching entertainment.
You can see that Seth Rollins is he's just so happy, isn't he, in life? You know what I mean? And I can kind of I've been told that as well. Do you know what I mean? That he's just doing great. Like, he's just a great guy, fucking happy. New wife, new baby, all that kind of thing. You can just see he's enjoying his life at the moment, and it's great when it resonates in the ring. I mean, it always has, but not necessarily always for Seth. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Controversy has kind of surrounded him in terms of certain things in the ring, and it's great to see him now put that past, and he's become such a great worker off the back of that.
He's certainly matured over the last few years.
He's a great worker off the back.
We've spoke about this before. When men are happy in their life, they're happy in their business, and when an unhappy wrestler wrestles unhappily, like there's no him. I love him. He's just a superstar, and there was a rocky 2 or 3 years there for him, and I think there was an awful lot of pressure put on him after the Shield breakup, and there was a lot of pressure put on the three of them, in all fairness, from the wrestling community, simply because there was so little options out there for other guys. You didn't just get to be a sleeper runaway success. It was like, there's nothing else here. Yous better be brilliant.
2 of them have prospered, though. It's great to see.
They have.
And also had a year of rehab. Remember when he got the injury? So that must have been really tough.
Yeah. You remember when we saw that documentary, obviously, with him and Balor both lying in the same room, and Balor was just like,
too sweet in each other.
I'd say inside Balor was like, karma's a bitch.
He was quite unfortunate as well, bless him. I mean, he had a little bad run of luck. Like, I mean, I
was there, Jay. I was actually there on the way. No lie. Rachel will tell you this. I was actually on the way to the toilet during that match. I think he was wrestling Kane over in Dublin. That's when he had that. That's when he and literally as I was walking down, because we had pretty good seats, but the aisle when you walk down towards the turn, like the corner of the ring was right beside me. And I swear to God, this is 100% true. I saw the way he landed on the leg, and I just went,
so unusual.
Good fucking Lord.
Such a weird knee blowout as well.
It was such a weird landing, It's kind of like when we talked last week about, the dynamite injury when you just go down.
Yeah.
But like, it was the way, the hyperextension almost of it. It didn't look like it was that, but as soon as you saw it, and you felt like, because the way he came down, you saw it, but I just went, oh, good Lord, no.
Yeah. But even
go ahead, Jake.
Even before that, you can become, if you get too ingrained into your own run, that wasn't the only perturbance on his wrestling, not as a reflection of him as a worker, but he had the Sting incident, he had the Finn, the Balor incident, and I'm not saying he's dangerous, I'm not saying any of them incidents were his fault, but you as a person, you have to kind of go every 4 or 5 or 6 months, go like, what am I doing wrong? And you're like, kid, you're not doing that wrong. These are things that happen in this sport.
That move for a start. Just don't do it for a while.
Just don't do it. But again, an unfortunate run like of a year and a half, over 2 years. And like, what am I doing wrong? It's like sometimes that could bury men. Do you know what I mean? Sometimes a bad run, a stretch like that will fuck you up. But thankfully, just watching him over this last little while, I'm glad to see that it didn't bury him. Do you know what I mean? I'm glad to see he didn't take it personally, because he is a star.
Are we starting to see? I don't know if you picked up on it. Maybe little shades of Ric Flair coming through on him in terms of the kind of flamboyance of the suits and the way he carries himself, and kind of even. Well,
you're always going to go to Flair, aren't you? You know what I mean? Like I detest these people that say McGregor. It's like when Flair tweeted McGregor and said, "Yeah, you're welcome for the gimmick."
Yeah,
it's like,
you know the way, even when you see him working now, the little thumb to the eyes and stuff like that and all.
The little cower and the sleazy shit,
yeah.
He's definitely getting a little greasier in his work, as opposed to trying to, overpower men with his, raw veracity. It's yeah, no, there's a little bit of sleeving coming into his character, and I like to see it.
But you can say it as well. He's kind of very confident in he's on top of his game. You know the way Flair would have that swagger about him. That
the strut.
He's so on top of his game. Yeah, you know what I mean. And you're nearly expecting him to peel off the suit jacket and elbow drop it nearly. It's so.
And he's a hell of a look as well. Do you know what I mean? Because he is a big boy. Like, you know what I mean.
He has everything. He has that finesse. He has that charisma. He has the size. He has the ability. He can act as well. Some men fall stop at the ability, like little tweaking of your gimmick over the years to become a little bit more. Whoop. Some men don't have that. They can't just tweak and refine little bits. And we've said before, again, wrestling happens between the moves. I mean, you can teach anybody a moveset, but what they do between, say, power bombing somebody and what they do when they go over there, you don't just run over, pick them up.
Moves are an exhibition.
Work that crowd. You know what I mean? Work that crowd between what you're doing.
Yeah,
he has it. He has it.
But he throws. It's the way even he threw that thumb to the eye to Cesaro to make sure you didn't miss it. You know, that kind of way. It was a flash kind of move, but everyone knew he took a thumb to the eye. Like, it's pretty cool. The way Flair used to do it,
I know, the little...
Yeah, by any means necessary, baby.
Yeah.
Woo!
Yeah. I just that's the kind of feeling I got looking at him. I thought it was just really cool, But yeah, solid match, as we'd expect from the boys.
Good finish.
Yeah. Still the finish a little bit odd, but still. Decent.
Oh no, I liked it. It was something different again. You know what I mean?
It leans into his greasy by any means necessary fucking shtick, doesn't it? You can see him sitting there on the ground. He wasn't celebrating the win. He was celebrating get one over Cesaro. He was like, I don't care if there's no low. I don't even see all these telling.
Now we're even. Now we're even.
And it sort of fed into the storyline when he was hammering them, saying how crap he was coming up to Mania and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So it was pretty good. Next up, Ian, you're going to take this one. Alexa Bliss versus Shayna Baszler.
Oh yeah, you kept this one for me, didn't you?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. What was the next match?
I thought Shayna was your girl.
Versus.
Oh, do you know what? Yeah, well, Randy was my boy too. It's like, all right, I'll try and articulate this as best I can. I'm going to speak in a language that you'll all understand out there. It was like the promo video was all I needed to see. It was like this little doll thing. It's like we talked about it before. Alexa Bliss, she's great at doing the little, horror gimmick or whatever. But once I saw this fucking match, and Shayna was doing some great work in there. She looks great every time she comes out. She looks like she actually kicked the shit out of you, probably because she would. But she was doing some lovely kind of work on the limbs, getting the arm back, like real legit looking stuff. I really enjoyed watching her work in there like that. And also, how more confident is she getting in the ring? You know what I mean? She's becoming polished by the day. Yeah. I love her ring gear, I have to say, the white and the black. She just looks like a pro. Yeah. There are always little things I look for, and I think and they all do in WWE these days, but sometimes gear doesn't suit a certain person. Her gear just suits her, do you know what I mean? Yeah. I thought she looked great, but then like this looking into the eyes fucking thing, and and then like having Nia Jax on the outside looking into her eye and copying the fucking, I was like, Jesus Christ, can we fucking leave that to John Carpenter, please?
You deserve better, girl. You deserve better.
Yeah, and like another great worker just been buried in the midst of this Z level fucking Hollywood writer bullshit. Yeah, just nonsense. Like to me. And the thing about it is, like the match itself, like with some of the moves and some of the work within the match was pretty good. You know what I mean? Even Alexa herself, she can work to an extent. You know what I mean? When she's with the right dance partner. But yeah, I just found this to be a bit hokey for my liking. I know it's entertainment. I know it's, but yeah, like I and that's me being polite. You know what I mean? Because we're not drinking tonight. So
yeah. Well, I suppose.
Well, like Jay is. Hand it to Jay.
Yeah, she's holding the kind of she's trying to hold down that funhouse until Bray returns, really, isn't she?
Oh, so, hopefully he doesn't, man. Hopefully he moves to Bray County Wicklow and stays there.
What do you mean? You don't like the eater of gimmicks?
No.
Where do you start? I mean, this is our second quality WWE produced wrestling show, which to this point has maintained a quality standard of believable imagery, believable work, and believable situations. They're almost clawing back a little legitimacy to, again, flesh opera. And then this silly shit just
How can
rears
they
its ugly
slag?
head.
How can they do vignettes and slag Warrior and Papa Shango for the angles they did? Do you know what I mean? In the 90s, and say that didn't age well when they're doing
Well,
this.
no, I mean, that was actual real voodoo that was used on the
I
Ultimate
know
Warrior.
that. That's what I'm saying. Like, Papa Shango was a legitimate voodoo fucking artist who actually hurt
He
the Warrior.
used legitimate voodoo. This is just
that
cartoon.
actually came out of
Thackeray.
Mr. Hellwig's fucking stomach, and yeah, he got crucified for that.
He's still sick to this day. He is so sick he doesn't breathe anymore.
That's what
all on Shango.
Do you know what it is as well? And it's very difficult. Like you're gonna start off and you have Bianca Belair versus Bailey, so that sets the bar for the women for the night, you know. And then you go to Alexa and Shayna, and no disrespect to Shayna or Alexa, but you're not gonna reach that level, you know. No. And then of course after them, then you're getting of course the Queen Charlotte versus Rhea Ripley, which we will come to, you know what I mean. So the bar in women's wrestling in there is really, really high.
Yeah, like in Shayna
I didn't even notice. You know what? That's a compliment to the first match. I didn't even. There was a time when I kept counting how many women's matches were on a card. There was 3 on this one, and it only felt like there was 1 from the way they used to do it, and it was this one.
Yeah.
And the worst thing about it is, I am having not a pop by Alexa. I'm a fan of her.
Me neither, by the way. Me neither.
It's not her.
Funny enough, there was actually 4 women's matches if you count the pre-show.
Nobody counts the pre-show.
It was
now
Natalia.
You sound like Joe.
It was Natalia.
That I count the pre-show. Sorry, that was the half vaccine talking. It like them girls can fucking work. Let them work honestly. This is obviously a pet project of somebody who has, we know who it is, who nobody can go over on, and they're going to see this thing through. I mean, it's already swallowed up Bray Wyatt's career. What's left in this? I don't understand how Bliss is going to come back after this. Obviously, she's going to get married and go away for a year, and she's going to come back and just forget that she was in league with Satan and a doll.
Jay is one of the great guitar players of this entire world. Nigel Tufnell from Spinal Tap said, "Once you go to 11, where can you go from there? Nowhere. You know what I mean? Nowhere."
No, but this is what I mean. I see it swallowing the validity of her career, and she put in a lot of work over the last few years to get to the point where she can sit on the big Jack in the Box of Mania and who's blank goo. Yeah. It's just obviously it's no knock on fucking Baszler. She's going. It doesn't matter. She's fucking gold. Whoever they throw her in against, it's just they're going to use her to validate other opponents, and that's a fine career. I'm not knocking that. I mean, I don't know whether she'll ever get the rubber gold. She's not upstairs in that company. She's looking for a woman champ, which is unfortunate because again, there's a throwback and a shadow off the old mentality of women's wrestling that sometimes hovers ominously over it. And in this match, we've seen that. I mean, you've got 2 women who could have put on a great match for fucking 7, 10, or 15 minutes. But then we've got this fucking undead necro fucking cheerleader bullshit, which is just, there's no sense even to the logic behind the sci-fi in it. I mean, what happened to Bray? Is it the doll? Why don't you bleed goo anymore? How come you're not using your magic shit? Why did you get thrown over Rumble by all them girls and not use your magic shit then? What's happening? If you can possess Nia Jax, why isn't she Bray? Maybe that's why Nia has a problem smashing up other female wrestlers. Maybe Alexa's in her head.
Why not possess Vince to giving you the title?
Somewhere they have a doll with pins and they're pinning it.
And Jax is like, I'm really good. I don't understand why I keep breaking people.
And then she goes, ouch, ouch. Someone pinning the doll.
Oh, what's this bullshit? This smells like Shango. But like, I mean, it was unnecessary. The gimmick is unnecessary. It's too far-fetched. It's too far gone now. And it's almost holding back how legitimate the programming is going forward. Like, we're getting good pay-per-views out of them. And it's not just 1 or 2 matches a pay-per-view. They're totally enjoyable. Maybe not everything for everyone, but I don't view the sport the way a lot of the indoctrinated 24/7, 365 fans do. I want to watch the wrestling. I want to watch the intros. I want to watch the gear. I want to watch the competitive spirit between people trying to make and ascend the business, propel it forward, so that wrestling doesn't die in 3 years' time, like some other companies in the world would, wanted
But if
to.
this was on any other company in the world, we'd also be slating it. You know what I mean? Like
Yes, it's not a WWE issue. It's just a bad match with bad logic behind it. It's flawed.
Yeah.
It's flawed, and the two girls.
Well, it
can
is
go.
a WWE issue. That's the problem. They would be the first in line to slay fucking AEW for coming up with this. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but it's cost Bray his fucking career. Like, I mean, there's a Wyndham Rotunda sitting here at home, doesn't know what's going on. He's like, why is my gimmick on the telly without me?
Yeah, it's kind of like, it must be weird as well, the two girls sitting backstage and they're watching Bailey and Bianca Belair do their thing, and they're going, we're going out now to do this hokey stuff, this ain't gonna go down well, and they must know it ain't gonna go down well before they go out, you know what I mean?
Thank God there's no fans here to boo us so we can go home.
When we talk about a Shark Tank, good Lord, that women's division is a proper Shark Tank, isn't it?
Oh. And you know what I love about it? I love the fact that the company and H is giving it this big one. We don't necessarily feel like we need to do an all-women's pay-per-view because that's patronizing. The girls fit snugly with the rest of the men in their division. And I love the psychology behind that. I know they did one once, but that was just to break the ice. Nobody got to do it, got to have a go of it after it. Yeah. They got that. That was the feather in their cap. And now it's just like, our girls are going out there with our boys. They're all putting on a great show. It's not women's wrestling. It's pro wrestling.
Yeah.
You know,
you actually nearly, the way you look at it nowadays with the level that it's reached, you're not even thinking about the gender situation at all now. You're just enjoying pro wrestling, really. Yeah,
it's just pro wrestling now. It really is. And the rest of the companies in the world don't realize they're 3 years behind the program. They're talking about our women's league is head and shoulders above the rest, and H is like, we just have a league of wrestlers.
yeah, absolutely.
Oh, they're women, are they? That's sexist.
Let's move on to a match that we've probably seen 100 times, but I don't know what it is. It never gets bored anyway. You know, these guys, if there was ever, when Ian alludes to the fact of dance partners, I mean, when you think of dance partners, you're talking Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn, aren't you? Jay, take us through this.
For me, like fucking, look, these lads, you've seen it a million times before. Yeah. I didn't, because I've seen it a million times before, it's kind of like, okay, Jesus, how many times can it go? And like, what can they do different this time? And they both do great work, you know what I mean? But it's like, is there anything else out there for them? You know, like someone like Kevin Owens, for me, needs to be, up in that upper echelon, challenging for things. And
at echelon, that the penthouse is reserved now for about 6 different men, and everything else, like I said, this is where what we were talking about on another episode, the separation between the upper top big strap tier, the big men, and the level down below. It is of no insult to these men to be viably competing for a secondary tier strap simply because of how good, how finished they are. There's almost an understanding amongst.
Well, I think Owens booked right is definitely world championship material without a doubt. We've seen it.
Well, who would you? We have. Well, who would you?
Well, he's better. He's better than Bobby Lashley for sure. He's better than Drew.
Well, I'll
he's
disagree.
Better than them all in terms of his actual in-ring work, without a doubt. And when booked right with that nasty Owens fight thing, there's not many better than him at it. Like, everything he does is believable. I'm sorry, for me, he's better than.
Yeah, I'll allow you your own opinions. It's
that's all Tuesday. It is. I just think he's better than anybody. I think he's better than anybody in that company, bar Reigns, in terms of believability.
Right. Okay. Here's a scenario.
Sorry, can I backtrack? I don't mean better than anybody in that company. I think obviously Orton is, he's the top. He is the top wrestler on the planet without a shadow of a doubt, in terms of what he does and believability. And hopefully when he comes back, to be a fresh kind of rejuvenation.
Yeah, but Randy's hit this plateau of, he's a very interesting situation. It's the first time in this business I can think of a man of his age, his youth, his ability, his physicality. He's the ace in the hole. When the company's stuck, they just throw the Randy card. they don't have to use him every week, every month.
Yeah.
Randy's on a Legends contract and he's still fully employed by the company. That guy is laughing so hard about, and you know what? Every second, every inch, and every day of it earned. I'm not taking that away from him.
But I think when it comes to Kevin Owens, though, just looking at his body of work and looking at everything he does, like when you see him talking to guys, you don't see him talking to guys. The little things that he does
Oh yeah,
is
yeah,
phenomenal.
yeah.
He's I just think I think in terms of his actual out and out talent, I think he's up there.
I don't think you're wrong. I'm not disagreeing with that respect, Ian. But here's one, right? Would you rather see him wrestling comfortably and well with men who he enjoys working against, or would you rather see him being pushed into situations where he's better head and shoulders above everybody else and still not getting to go over?
I'd love to see him get a program with someone like a Bobby Lashley. I think that would you know what I mean? Or we seen him with Roman there a little while ago, and I think Roman came out the better of it because of working with people like Owens. You know what I mean? I don't know. I hear what you're saying, and I do agree with you. But I think Owens can work with literally anybody. I think he's that kind of guy that can work with anybody. I think he's of that kind of he's of that kind of Hart dynasty where they can all just work with anybody. You know what I mean? Big, small.
I agree. But the problem is he's working for a boss who doesn't want to put a belt on him for any longer than a couple of months.
Yeah, I agree.
So I'd rather, like, I mean, in MMA, you call somebody like that a gatekeeper. And I don't mean that disrespectfully. Like, in pro wrestling, it's different, obviously. They're not fucking, they're not interchangeable phrases. But Owens, I loved that match on that card. There was a chemistry and a vibe between him and Sammy that you don't get between many men. There was bits where they were scuffling like 9-year-olds rolling in the muck, but they were slapping each other in the face. And it was like the cameras weren't even on them.
Busted lip,
do you know what I mean?
Sammy, yeah.
Or after a move, they were fucking kicking each other and all. And you're like, that's me fighting my cousin when I was 13. Any second, any inch, any minute. And you couldn't let him wrestle like that against somebody like Roman or Bobby. Like, I think it
all falls on Vince's shoulders, though, really, doesn't it? Because when we look at someone like, I mean, you could liken Kevin Owens to Samoa Joe, very, very similar situations. Like, Samoa Joe, obviously, back down in NXT, brought back one of the contracts that Triple H just went, "What are you doing? He's not going to give me him then. Give me him
back." I'm sorry about that.
Yeah, and you see Owens, or you see Samoa Joe down there choking out fucking Adam Cole, and you're like, this is another guy that when booked right. I mean, Vince's idea of booking Samoa Joe is having him on commentary. You know what I mean? When the lad's raring to go.
Yeah.
Whereas, and it's the same with Kevin Owens. It's like when you book this lad right, again, it all comes down to booking. Vince just sees biceps and sees grooves within biceps. Don't look at mine, Vince. I don't have them. But
I have them in this one now. I'm all fucking 5G.
You know what I mean? He just sees meat and sees fucking lads who are quite clearly, they're getting help.
And I think that's
still to this day.
That's exactly what I mean. You've said it better. What I was trying to say, you've said it better, right? The old man has fucking tunnel vision when it comes to the last 40 minutes of his show.
Yes.
And if Owens is up there, he'd be too man-marked and too manipulated to let us as fans see Kevin Owens the way he wants to wrestle and wants to walk.
Yeah, it doesn't do it for him, yeah.
Whereas now that he's in this, we'll call it the mid-card bracket, and I don't mean that mid-card as in he's mid-card of the talent. I mean 3 hours on the pay-per-view, hour 1 opener and halfway in, hour 2 conscientious workers, lifers, men who don't need to wear gold, who are being allowed to wrestle the way they want with men who can actually go with them and hang with them. And hour 3, Vince McMahon actually turns on his own TV show to have a look at what's happening. The Owens we would get if he was, and he deserves a good hard push, but he also deserves was being allowed to wrestle how he can fucking go. And Vince wouldn't let him in the last half hour or 40 minutes of the show. He'd just be manipulating it too much to allow the man to be comfortably expressing himself between the turnbuckles and ropes. Whereas where he is now, we're seeing Kevin Owens having fun with his fucking career, with his sport. There's the onus and pressure of wearing the gold all around the world and being the champ of the business. That belongs on men like Lashley who've wanted it for the last 25 years. Even Reigns is very comfortable in his role in it now. Kevin Owens isn't. And it stunts his ability as a pro wrestler. I mean, I'd love to, honestly, I don't know whether he's been down there or not. He probably has, but the way they're doing this chop switch internationally recognized pro wrestlers dropping down to NXT for a season or two.
Oh, him and Balor had probably one of the best series of matches in NXT history. I'd say you'd agree with that, Noel, wouldn't you?
Yeah, absolutely, yeah.
We'll have to check some of them out.
Yeah,
but I'd love to see him go
definitely.
back down with this new flight of talent.
Me too. I think that would
get
be
a lot
great.
more out of the other four men we've seen fighting Karrion Cross. Imagine if fucking Owens was down there with those men.
It's the place to be, really, isn't it?
It is if you want to wrestle.
Owens versus Adam Cole or something like that would be amazing.
Even Owens versus Samoa Joe. Imagine finally getting to see that match.
Tommaso Ciampa.
Getting Owens versus Joe would be, for me, that's a match that doesn't means much more than this kind of.
The only thing I find
wrestling.
The only thing I find with Joe or with Kevin Owens is, and I'm a big fan of Kevin Owens, but he's kind of presented in a way that's kind of a little bit rugged and a little bit kind of, I don't know, is it hard to market or something like that? Because he comes across as being disinterested, that kind of way. And it's kind
that's his thing, though, isn't it?
But it's hard to market that. It's hard to get a fan behind you that way. Then you know what I mean. Whereas you're talking about Joe. Look at how polished Joe is as well. Even though he does that rugged hard style, he's still very polished. If you look at Owens, it's still a little bit kind of.
Yeah, you're right.
Not in ring.
Joe has a bit of Taz about him. There's a mean evil finesse about him. Whereas Kevin Owens is kind of like standing by the vendor, the bleeding hot dog stand, just milling hot dogs. You're up. Oh, what? Yeah. Okay, I'll be there in a minute. I just need to finish these 6.
Yeah, but in ring, definitely he's polished. You know what I mean? There's
not in question.
Fluidity.
Absolutely not in question.
No, he's polished absolutely in what he does, but do you not find even when he's wrestling in the ring that he presents it in a kind of, it's not sloppy work. But
it's almost a fake disinterest.
Yeah, it comes across as if it's a fake disinterest, that it's like, like he just drops a stunner out of nowhere. And it's
because he's kind of like he's a prize fighter. That was always his kind of gimmick.
But it's like what Jay says. He could be rolling around on the ground with Sami Zayn, slapping the mush and kicking the crap off each other. And it just comes across out of this mess, and all of a sudden, bang, you're into a stunner. Or himself and Sami Zayn, they've a real appetite for big move finishers in different parts of the arena than where they should be. Like, hitting swantons out of nowhere, moonsaults out of nowhere.
Oh, well, I'd agree with that. I mean, like, I'm not a big fan of all that old Ring of Honor stuff, as you know. Like, I mean, I'm a fan of some of it. I'm not a fan of like 20 false finishes, in a match. That's not my game.
Yeah.
I'm not into it. Never have been. Never will be. It doesn't take away from my appreciation for what these lads can do.
Yeah, it's just a different flavor that you don't particularly fancy.
That's all
I get you.
But
I do see your point there. No, in fairness, yeah.
It's like when you're trying to follow the match and it's like it's a bar brawl.
Yeah.
And out of nowhere, you suddenly get 2 minutes of technical ability, and you're trying to adjust to that, and then you're back into a bar brawl again. Yeah. And then you're back into technical ability again. And you kind of like, the story kind of gets, like the lines get a bit blurry and you're trying to figure out, well, is this guy a real technical guy? Or is this guy just in an off-cut shirt trying to have a row with a fella? You know what I mean? And you're
before you get to the next match, that's why I say it, on this podcast each and every single week when we get to talk about wrestling, which is nice to talk about wrestling again.
Isn't it?
Yeah, definitely, Jay. That's why I say that pound for pound, without a shadow of a doubt, Finn Balor is the best in the game right now. Because you get to see that. It's the slow build-up and then it's actual wrestling. Do you know what I mean? There's none of this 20 spots a minute and fucking, it's actual pro wrestling. And
yeah, but even when you look at Finn Balor working, even when it comes to a time where, they're thrown down and it could look a bit sloppy, it's still crisp. It's still technical the way he does it. Even when they're in the middle of the ring and they're throwing forearms or elbows or whatever it is, it's still crisp and technical. Whereas when the boys are doing it, it's like, he's just.
I love that. Yeah. I love it. Like I said, they were rolling around with each other. Yeah. Like, I mean, they'd be scrabbing each other if they could. Yeah. You know what I mean?
But I think it's endearing to us in the mid card because that's
who should be watching that actually.
But I think that's
the only place the company will allow it.
Elevating that to a strap just doesn't work.
But John Moxley should be watching that, to be fair. Well, it did work for him for a little while. As I said, it all depends on how you're booked, man. And that's what I'm saying. It depends on how you're booked. I mean, at the end of the day, don't forget, JBL was world champion. and look disinterested.
But this isn't like that. It's, you know what it is, Ian. You're just out there hitting on it. The company doesn't know what to do with him.
No,
They don't. They
because
know
they
his
don't
worth.
have,
They know his
they don't
value.
have
They know he
wrestling
has a
people.
place.
Yeah, they don't have wrestling people like creating these actual matches and booking the characters as they should be. Do you know what I mean? Whereas Triple H does. Triple H knows exactly what to do with these characters. That's why Triple H is looking at the books going, hey, Vince, guess what? You got to call Joe. I'll fucking pay him out of my own salary if I need to.
Oh, he's coming back. He's coming back. No,
He's
this is
coming back either
this is
way.
Slow Jim. He's a different guy. Whatever. Shut up. I told you stop calling me.
Yeah, do you know what I mean? So it's like, you know, and I was one of the biggest kind of, I suppose, critics of that kind of new school style back in the day, as you know, Niall.
Yeah.
There was certain arguments I had with people going, don't give me that, I hate it. Jay knows that as well. Me and Jay were pretty much on the same page.
Yes.
But now a lot of that new school, when you look at it, it's kind of like, it's not new school anymore. It's like, bring back new school. I'll have new school. Give me new school, please. Give me that Ring of Honor stuff with AJ Styles and all the boys, you know? Give me Petey fucking Williams. All this shit. Finger bang.
Back.
He's obsessed with this Team Canada, isn't he? Team Canada. Come on, man.
It is what it is. It is what it is.
They say maple leaf. I hear maple grief. Get him out of my locker room.
Maple syrup is lovely. Anyway, I suppose moving on from that match, it was good. I do like the two boys. I just wish that we could get some kind of new flavor with the lads. You know what I mean? Because this Sami Zayn one, like, obviously that gimmick is going down well, I suppose. But you know, definitely Kevin Owens has a lot more to give. I think that gimmick suits Sami Zayn because of the look.
He's a paranoid lunatic.
Yeah.
I mean, he looks like somebody they pulled off a fucking a subway car. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly.
Isn't it? You just walk out to the ring with a paper cup after.
It looks like he should be down in Wexford coming off a fucking fish boat. You know what I mean? Oh, how you going there, boys?
He's fucking, but he's brilliant. And I did. This is what I say. I didn't mean to do a disservice to Kevin Owens. He's a consummate professional wrestler, and so is Sammy. And we see this in their work. They sell so well. They work so well together. You can tell they're in each other's pocket. But the fact is, if either of them were elevated away from each other, or a tier where Vince McMahon actually turns on the television, he'd pull it all apart and asunder, and the charm and joy of watching them and their style would be lost. And then they're just back to, why did you send this guy up? We're like, well, because he's doing very well. The kids love him. I hate children.
Yeah, it's like my own. Joe, we need you back. Sorry, I can't. I'm on a 90-day no compete. I can't come back.
Here's a new gimmick. You're now Tonga Joe.
Oh God.
Grass skirt and no shorts. Huh?
Just don't
I believe I own the rights to Prince Iakea too. So there we go.
Didn't I fire him? No, he's a different guy.
Different.
You're right.
He was in the 90s. He was in the 90s, Vince.
I'd remember firing him. Yeah, you would. So, see, that's how you didn't.
Dust off the beads. You're back.
Yeah.
Let's move on. Raw Women's Championship. Rhea Ripley versus Charlotte Flair.
I'll take this one. I have to say, right, for all the love in with I mean, I love Charlotte for a start. I have to say, I still think she's, you know, I still think her and Becky are like the pinnacle of what they do on a daily basis. But I think they're two completely different type of wrestlers, and I think you know, and they're presented in two different ways. Rhea Ripley, I have to say, I'm going to say it now, and I'm willing to take the heat. And please comment below. Good Lord, does she oversell and over fucking scream? It's ridiculous. It's fucking ridiculous. And I've heard people talk about it too, but everyone's afraid to say it. She's a phenomenal talent. But that stupid scream for every single thing, whether it's in a fucking armbar, a wrist lock, a fucking a throw against the ropes, it's ah! It's like, are you Luna Vachon or what are you? Which one? Like, are you... So everything bar that is just... I mean, I'll never forget the one in the empty arena, WrestleMania, the first one. It was like, this is just ridiculous. This is actually wrecking my brain. I can't enjoy this match. I had to mute it at one point. I said, I'm going to watch this. And legit, live, I turned it on mute just so I didn't hear that stupid scream. It's ridiculous to a point. You understand what I mean? It's overselling.
Yeah,
And
this is
she's
Mike,
got enough
this,
talent without needing to do that.
Yeah, this is Michaels versus Hogan at SummerSlam stuff.
Oh, but the
greatest
difference
match
is
ever.
Michaels knew. The difference is Michaels knew what he was doing.
Yeah, he didn't take it as his art. He was taking the piss.
Oh, like it's that scream is just too much. It's like, okay, I understand. You're like, like sometimes if an arm is just and you're, it's getting a little bit like this way it should be like, get the fuck off me. And then when it gets hyperextended, then you're like, you fuck. You know what I mean? Whereas everything is It's just,
the four for the.
but
first
you like
time
rocker
ever,
women, Jay. I know where you're going.
No,
You love
absolutely.
it.
Yeah, listen, look.
Should be a hell of a vocalist in a metal band.
The bigger the traps, the better.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, some fellas need a slap every now and again. Sorry, no.
Gladly
Vaccine there.
Gladly take one.
I wonder what her is it one. She's so young, and her rise has been meteoric. You know what I mean? She's still so very young, and she's still in the very early days of her career, where most people before they get to that level in the industry have ironed out that shit. I just wonder if there's somebody in the back encouraging her to do this, like, because I don't remember her being like that before. Was she like that in NXT?
She's been like that for a while now. Yeah, like,
really.
Especially those quiet matches with no audience and really no Thunderdome and all.
Well, maybe it's because maybe it's always been there, but because we're not in the crowd anymore, we're hearing it more. Because when you're screaming loud and piped in audio, there's a difference. A live voice and an audio voice, they're two different things.
Is it a case that maybe the character needs a little bit of softening in terms of is it too dark?
Yes.
Well, this is another thing as well I brought up on the Rumble, or
I'd agree with that.
Maybe it was a little after the Rumble. I'm not particularly a fan of this whole morphing her into the Jared Leto's Joker style. This whole overly accentuated goth rocker chick. She didn't look like that about 3 or 4 pay-per-views ago. And it's getting more extreme every pay-per-view we get into. And obviously they're molding and morphing her into this, well, you know what, we don't have Paige anymore, so we need this pale, dark, gothic-looking girl to sell to a demographic or a medium. I don't know. I'm not particularly impressed with forcing it so hard. Especially with one so young.
Yeah. That's what it is. And I think what it is, because like when you look at it, I mean, for me, I'm looking at that going, right, you can see the levels, even though everyone's kind of on the Ripley kind of bandwagon, you can still see the levels are night and day between her and Charlotte. Everything Charlotte does is just fucking crisp. Which is
fair enough. Which
is fair enough. And to be fair, they are two different characters. I understand that. You know what I mean? I don't expect Rhea Ripley to be the same, in ring as Charlotte. But I do think that's just one thing. And look, that's just one pet peeve. As for everything else, I think it's great. You know what I mean? I just think the overselling, because don't forget, she's meant to be, let's not forget this. She's also meant to be the boss in this. You know what I mean? She's meant to be, no pun intended, I'm not trying to take anything away from Sasha Banks there. But she's meant to be, the in control kind of
brutal. She's the brutal tough one.
The brutal one. So a little bit less of the screaming selling. You're kind of like, and the thing is, when you look at her face, it doesn't look believable. It's just screaming for the sake of fucking screaming.
Do you know what I find as well? And I don't know whether you picked up on it with the black makeup. With the black makeup, when you make a face that you're in pain, do you not just look like you're smiling?
Yeah, you do. And that's my problem with this maniacal Joker face they have her doing. I'm not into it. It's too contrived. Like, I mean, in one sense, I can see from a production perspective why they're pushing it that way, because it made Charlotte look exactly what Charlotte is. She is the embodiment of the consummate, classy female professional wrestler. And again, not to bring sex into it, but we have to, because it was a ladies' match. Charlotte looked great out there. She looked fucking. She is the spearhead and the impetus behind that women's division. She's the queen of the whole deal, and there's a reason for that. I mean, her father's one of the greatest who ever did it. You don't lick it up off the fucking ground.
Yeah.
And to have this young fucking psychopathic, frenetic, overselling, overacting against somebody who's a quiet dignity in a complete trust and faith in her skill set, which is all there and has always been there. It was just she never had any girls to run against to her degree or level, which again isn't an insult to the women who came before. It was just, it's a very, very fast moving division. I mean, we've seen it.
I'd take exception to that on the Becky front. I think she always had that.
No, I will. No, I'm going to inject there, Ian. Right, with Becky, I don't think we've even touched the tip of the iceberg with what she's capable of. I think when she comes back, we're going to see a completely different Becky, which is going to make everything she was before seem almost casual in its presentation. And I don't mean that as an insult to how she was. I think when she comes back, shit's going to be different.
Well, she has to really.
For the better.
Yeah, but it has to really, because she's coming back to a totally different landscape now. I mean, with Bianca in there, with Bailey so good.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? When she was
they
going
have running
off,
partners.
Bailey was still going around hugger with the blow-up yokes and all.
Yes.
Now Bailey is unbelievable. Imagine you getting the main event with Bailey versus Becky. You know what I mean? Incredible now.
Make no mistake about it. That pop will be bigger than fucking...
Yeah.
Right?
You know what I mean?
And they were right to hold back on it. They were right to let a division excel and accentuate before because with the pair of them, they're different entities as professional athletes. Again, Charlotte has been slow groomed and given all the length, breadth, track and road to get to where she is now. And she is a finished product and has been for a good few years, even before Becky stepped up. Becky seized on an opportunity and shrugged off any stupid bullshit the company draped on her shoulders and showed exactly what was in there before she even was in the company. Do you know what I mean? Who Becky has always been there. Clearly, you don't just wake up and be brilliant. But when she comes back from her little rest, that's just wild dice thrown into a great mix. And there's other girls for her to run against. You know what I mean? And we're seeing the difference again when the other girls were raising up, like the likes of fucking Rhea and fucking Belair. They were young and fucking running head on with each other. And Jesus, even Bailey, her turn from fucking hugger Bailey to who she is now, that's only about a year and a half or 2 years old. Like it can't be that old. But when Becky comes back, Jesus Christ, she's got running partners, and it's going to make her better again than who she already was. It's exciting times. It's brilliant. Like,
yeah, absolutely. And what about Charlotte's work? I mean, we can't appreciate it really, can we? The way she works a body part, very like the dad, and even when she's in a bad position, the way she clambers to the ropes to get the foot on the rope and all that kind of stuff. Like, her
do you know
work
what? This is going to
sensational,
sound weird, but like in some ways, she works better than the dad in that sense. You know, because like Rick would always have his shtick. You know what I mean? You know, flick him into the corner, he'll do the upside down thing. Rick was more of a comedic kind of wrestler as well. At times, yeah, he could be very serious. I mean, Rick had so many different elements and layers to what he could do, but
yeah, he moved with the industry.
Yeah, fundamentally, Rick was the same kind of match every night kind of deal. You know what I mean? And that's no disrespect to Ric Flair, but let's be real. It is 100% true. He worked with what was good for him, and then it kind of became a thing. It's Ric Flair. Fuck it, we're gonna enjoy watching it. And then you got him in with someone like Shawn Michaels for his retirement match, and it's like, okay, let's do something different. He also had the ability to be able to do that. Then, you know what I mean? Whereas I think Charlotte is that's not in any way, shape, or form to say that Charlotte's better than her dad, like, because she's not.
No, you're not wrong in what you're saying. Rick would have to wrestle the same match for a whole year, whereas now with the televised situation, every pay-per-view has to be a different match, and that wasn't Rick's
Whereas it wasn't his background, you know what I mean?
No.
Whereas, like Charlotte, my God, like the little nuances that she has in terms of knowing when to put the foot on the rope, knowing when to just take it. Like sometimes the commentators don't even see it. She'll grab a hold of a pair of tights or something, you know, she'll grab the tights and you're like, call that, you fucking, you know what I mean? She's
That's a veteran.
Yeah.
Michael Cole, that's a veteran.
That's a veteran. There you go. There you go. Exactly. Yeah, just so many little things looking at Charlotte's work. She's yeah, good Lord.
It's
like
even small things. I like even when they're announcing her and she comes off, she does the run off the ropes to nearly do the Flair strut, but she's developed she's developed her own way of doing it. You know what I mean? It's really, really cool.
You know, she's obviously spent enough time around the old man, because for a while she was kind of bugging me because, you know, it was coming out and doing the woo and just kind of doing the parody of the dad and stuff like that. And I was like, she's going to find her own eventually. And you kind of knew that she was going to find her own eventually. And this is what we have now. You know what I mean? She just presents herself in a manner that it is just such, it oozes confidence. Like, I don't know if there's many pro wrestlers in the world that present themselves that ooze the confidence that she does.
She's so fucking sure of herself, isn't she?
You know, the little kind of flick and all she does, and just the little kind of you know, it just to me it just embodies what a professional wrestler is. She's version 2.0 of Rick, but she's the modern version.
Yeah, she stepped right out of his shadow and she's created her own legacy and her own destiny and all, and it's fantastic, you know.
It's awesome.
Yeah, absolutely.
Really is. It's almost like she's a veteran wrestler from the territory days when there hasn't been a territory days for women. I mean, she is your
but when you think about it, Becky Lynch legitimately is a veteran at this point. Like, she started in 2002 with all of us.
You know, the great thing about Becky is she got to there without having a father in the business to that level.
Yes.
Do you know what I mean? She's brand new. Nobody has the foundation behind them that Charlotte had. I mean,
she was destined. Like, I mean, it was going to be. I mean, when we look at the history of it, like, you know, with David Flair, you know, completely no disrespect to David Flair as a human being, but just not meant for this business. Do you know what I mean? In WCW, just literally wasn't meant for this business. Reed, rest in peace, obviously, had a great amateur background, was on the way. Just unfortunately, his demons got in the way, and that was a tragic situation. So you can't really say that, you know, because I think he probably would have done pretty okay in his own way.
He had it.
Yeah, he had it. But Charlotte just took what Reed was about to be, and had no even ambition to get into it, but done it for her brother and just went, like, it's crazy. Like, people think that this whole DNA thing is just a thing that people say. It's really not.
It's in there.
It's in there if you want it. You know what I mean?
It's in there.
You know, we don't know whether Shawn Michaels' kids are going to, you know, grow up and be, you know, be the next Shawn Michaels or whatever. You know, we know Brett's kids won't be because they're not interested in it. You know, people like that. We've seen Hogan's kid Nick trying to get into it and then he didn't, and blah blah blah, and they kind of go their own way. And the daughter, so I mean, it's just I think Ric Flair is wrestling royalty, and I think he is the epitome of wrestling royalty, and it was always going to be someone that broke out of that tree, you know. And Charlotte,
something else, even just in general in humanity, there's something else in Rick. I mean, we've all seen the pictures of him and the size that he was as a physical beast before a plane crash broke his fucking back, and for him just to refuse it and say, you know what, you're not getting in my way, and I might not be able to pick up the weights the way I used to. We'll find another way to be the best in the ring. How many men get 2 runs at the same dream?
And he only got into it when he was 26. You know what I mean? This is the thing. People talk about DDP getting into it at 36. Like, I turned 37, you know, last year, and I only said to herself the other day, I was like, I started trying to get into this game at 18, 17 even. Rick was 26. What the fuck? You know what I mean?
Well, you can almost argue that as well, Ian. For some men, it would be better if they got into it late when their body had fully developed and they had a brain on their shoulders. And I don't mean that as an insult.
Same with me. No, Jay, you are 100% correct. There's sometimes, you know, when you want to change back the course of time, and I almost wish that for me too. It's crazy, but it is very true. And, you know, with Rick having a fully developed body, And obviously, I'd imagine the fact that he had that meat on the bones is probably what fucking.
Big boy. He was a big boy.
Oh yeah. But yeah, no. I think Charlotte is just to me like I mean Shayna Baszler. As I said, I don't think Shayna Baszler I don't think she's at the level of a lot of the girls there. Personally, I know it's probably not a popular opinion, but I don't. I think Bailey is way ahead of her. I think Sasha Banks is ahead of her personally as well when she's on her game. I think Sasha Banks is another Seth Rollins that's kind of stepped up. Not Seth Rollins always had it, but those little things
I get
where
you,
the
yeah.
injury to Paige and stuff like that. You know
can
what I
see
mean?
a second phase
Yeah.
that's clearly defined from the first phase. No, I agree with you. I agree with you.
And I think they're ahead of her, and I think Bianca Belair is just. I think actually, personally, I think her rise is more impressive than Shayna Baszler.
She's so fucking natural.
Yeah, because I think Shayna Baszler was already good. I just think those little nuances, those little things, if she could iron out, like, you know, that over screaming, the overselling, kind of be more dominant in your selling. Like, you know, when you look at when I look at guys like, say, even Aaron Anderson, I'm going to like use an example, someone like an Aaron Anderson. You never heard the lads over screaming. You know what I mean? You could hear them, but you never heard them over screaming. But like when there was certain things, Aaron Anderson's a great example, actually. You'd hear him going, even Ric Flair. Ric Flair is a perfect example. When Ric Flair be like, oh God, no. Oh God, no. You know when he'd be backed into the corner.
Down onto the knees.
I especially used to love the Ric Flair Hogan matches in WCW. You know, because he'd be chopping the chest on Hogan when he was hooking up, and he'd be like, oh God, I'm sorry. Like, you know, just go down to the knee.
And then he goes like that, and then Hogan steps in, and then the thumb to the eye.
Then the thumb to the eye. You know what I mean? Like, just those little things, like, and look, Rhea is very young. She'll get that. But I think
she's very young.
I just think that, but so is Bianca, I suppose, as well. And I just think that there's certain girls, for me, that I think are a bit ahead of her at this moment in time, but that is in no way, shape, or form.
I think the difference for me between Bianca and Rhea is Bianca's what about it, whereas Rhea is more how do I get it? Do you know what I mean?
I think she needs to believe in herself more. I think she definitely needs to go back to the tapes, and look at, you know, guys and girls and look at how they sell, look at when to scream. Look, there's no issue with that. You know what I mean? Luna Vachon used to be a lunatic on the outside of the ring going, you know, and same with Sherry.
I think it's harder on the girls. There's no real legacy of history behind the female wrestling for them to lean on. They're almost breaking new ground every time they get into the ring.
Oh yeah, without a shadow of a doubt. Yeah, Sherry's the only real, you know, because I mean that fucking Moolah thing, like, fuck her. But yeah, like literally Sherry would be the one that would be the one that came before them and really, because even Wendy Richter and all, there wasn't.
And Sherry would have done her fair share of screaming.
Oh yeah. Yes, like a demented Hellcat.
Yeah.
But in the ring though, only again at certain times. Yeah. You know what I mean?
Not all the time.
Knowing when to sell and when not to sell. That's all I would say. I mean, look, who am I? Shayna Baszler's fucking. Yeah. You know, she's a world champion in WWE. So who am I, this little guy from Ireland, giving my opinion? But it is my opinion, and I think she would benefit from just maybe tuning a few little things. That's all.
Absolutely.
Sorry, Rhea. Yeah. Rhea. Yeah. My apologies.
Yeah. No, grand.
Anyway, let's move on. WWE Championship: Bobby Lashley versus Drew McIntyre. Hell in a Cell. Jay.
Hard hitting, wasn't it?
They bet the fuck out of each other. They whooped the shit out of each other for my entertainment, and I greatly appreciate the struggle.
Jay, was it just me, Jay? Was it just me, Jay, or was Bobby Lashley's blood on his shoulder glowing?
Yes.
What's that all about?
I don't know, but I swear to God, they whooped the shit out of each other like big men should. It was
the pictures of Drew McIntyre's back after that match.
That's two men who looked at each other and went, you know what? Fuck belts. Me, you, and about 5 other men put on a serious amount of fucking cushion onto our fucking bone sofas, and we didn't do it for nothing. Let's go out there and burn the house down. They painted that cage red for a goddamn reason. Let's show them hell. And they beat the living shit out of each other. And it was thoroughly enjoyable. They were half the moves were just like, you know what, fuck, yeah.
Yeah.
It was like closing time, last orders.
It was me flying in that game.
Shit hit the fan, and it was a glorious spread. I tell you, son, I enjoyed watching that. Oh, pro wrestling, baby.
Ian?
Oh, like I'm with Jay on it. Like I was literally watching it going, what the fuck? Like are these lads actually just like trying to get injured? What's the story like? I mean,
this was a match that really felt like a Hell in a Cell
that was
match,
like you were playing PlayStation match, like fuck off into the.
But
game.
you know the way sometimes you get these Hell in a Cell matches and like the cell is literally just decoration and never gets used.
No, this was let's use all of the tools available to us.
These were two lads going, forget about the ring, let's just destroy each other.
That fucking table shot at the end of it was like fucking. It was just, do you know what? The camera was at the right place at the right time in that whole match as well. To hear the impact, because that was just pure meat getting thrown around.
Man, I think they're watching us because the camera work all event for me was
phenomenal.
Yeah,
but in this match in particular, it was like every single fucking. I don't know. I was kind of like, Jesus, Drew. Yeah, all right, bud. What's the story? I saw his back at one point. I was like, that's a laceration about the fucking open up, like. Yeah, as I said, Bobby Lashley's blood was fucking glowing from his shoulder. I was like, what is this shit?
Lashley is the Predator, isn't he, without the mask?
Oh, man, and I was like, right, I know Bobby Lashley's black, and I was like, but his blood doesn't glow fucking a luminous red. But it fucking did in this match.
Tonight it did.
Yeah.
They must have had some serious downlights on the red on the cage just to accentuate. It was like, the first thing I thought of, right, firstly, I'm a traditional blue steel cage man, and the very first thing, we all are, baby. We grew up at the grassroots, you know, chewing on hayseed. And I looked at this fucking match. The first time I seen the cage drop, I thought, first thing, High Plains Drifter, when Clint Eastwood has the townspeople paint the town red because, you know, the devil's come home, and now it's hell. And I was like, why is it red? They're going to beat the shit out of each other tonight.
Yeah. I have to say it was the best. Like, as I said, I give the match of the night to Bayley and Bianca Belair. But
in terms of violence and a Hell in a Cell night.
But this was fucking, without a shadow of a doubt, one of the best Hell in a Cell matches I've ever seen.
Without gimmickry that hurt men. I mean, obviously these men were hurt, but nobody got thrown through a fucking ceiling. There's no career-ending injuries here. This is two hardy boys who went in there for a meal, looked at each other and said, you know what? You think that was good? Follow this. Yeah!
I'm gonna give Drew the ultimate compliment as well here, because he did say he was on that A&E Bret Hart documentary, and he said he studies Bret Hart quite a lot. You know what I mean? He was talking about how he studies his facial expressions and stuff like that. And you can actually see it. Drew was great at making it look like, oh my God, I'm actually pissed off at myself here. Yeah. You know, like if a football team loses a match, you don't just see them going, oh, whatever. Yeah. It's like, for fuck's sakes, lads. You know what I mean? Yeah. Drew makes it look like he's actually pissed off.
And me and you
probably know what I mean.
Second time in the company, damn straight.
And it was something that I saw this morning, actually. It was Ted DiBiase. And it was Ted DiBiase and Bret in a match in 92. And Ted DiBiase got a roll-up. And he turns around. Someone goes, please tell me Bret didn't say fuck. But that's exactly what he said. He gets up the tree, boom. And he gets up and sits up and just goes, fuck. You know what I mean? And it's those little believability factors that you're like, shit, that means, oh man, like I'm actually annoyed at myself there. Why did I let myself do that? You know what I mean? Yeah. It's like when you see it in UFC, Jay. Yeah, like in UFC, Jay. You know? Like someone, like they're actually frustrated at. Like,
I trained 3 months for that. Fuck.
Yeah, you would kind of hope that it builds towards a payoff for Drew, wouldn't you? In terms of maybe
Yeah,
getting
definitely.
the title back.
Oh, it will though.
And then when we have the fans back, he gets the fans back to have the title and stuff like that.
Yeah, I think it will. I think it will because he's too good for it.
Can you imagine that crowd? Can you imagine a live crowd in front of that match? They deserved the pop. They deserved this is a brilliant thing again that people don't perceive about no crowds for a year and a half. The payoff for somebody who goes in and sacrifices themselves for so long and so hard into a business which morphs and changes their body, which we know will eventually shave years off their lifespan. This is sacrifice. This is fucking entertainment. This is the marriage between these men going out there deserved us in the audience appreciating the fucking shit they do to make us walk away happy with how we chose to spend an hour and a half of our life when they spend fucking 30, 40 years honing and refining a skill set to fuck themselves up so we can do this. That match deserved a crowd. And Drew, I don't understand. I can't wait to see his face the first time when he's in front of a live audience because he is hard.
We saw that Mania.
We did and we didn't. It wasn't mania, and we can see that with the company and their impetus behind this. Is a SummerSlam coming up? Forgive me on the times again.
And it's on a Saturday this time as well.
Right, and it's the first time in maybe 35, 36 years where the company's saying, now that yous are back properly, WrestleMania is not the most important event of the year on the calendar. When yous are back, it's the most important event of the year. And that card that night, this company has been waiting on it. They've been just like a minigun on the side of a helicopter. They are going to give us everything they want. If they're going to give us this a Hell in a Cell, a match like that, give me that in front of 80,000 or 70 or 60,000 people because those athletes deserve the pops. They fucking deserve them hard. That's the pay dirt.
Absolutely.
I mean, it's we're coming into a very exciting time in the rebirth of the audience appreciating the profession.
I hope so.
I hope so.
What about the finish after all this brutality? I spoke to Jay today about this finish prior to Jay even seeing the pay-per-view, and I was thinking we went on this journey of such a brutal match. These two lads took years off their career, bet the crap out of each other, but then finishes with a roll-up.
I love it.
I was a tad disappointed.
No,
sneaky. It was sneaky though.
I'm all about that. I'm all about that. For me, that's it's a classic old like Claymore, and the fans know when to shout Claymore, Claymore, F you, blah blah blah. I love seeing a match finish with a fucking roll up and a handful of tights and a manager outside with the wherewithal to go, fucking give me your leg, you prick. You're at debating the bollocks out of me. I'm gonna fucking get you.
It's almost as good as a roll up with two legs on the rope as well.
It was absolute a thing of beauty, I thought. I was like, that's the way to finish a pro wrestling match of that magnitude. Brilliant.
It also takes nothing away from Drew's stock.
In fact, it keeps him strong because
frustrate him. Keep frustrating this motherfucker.
Was the one that actually got, because Drew was the better man and was about to kill him. MVP done the Bobby the Brain hand and holding the fucking leg. Boom.
By any means necessary. All we needed was slick with a sticker.
I love it. And you know what? More of that, please. But not the same fucking finish every week. Like give me a victory roll every now and then. You know what I mean? Give me a small package.
Package.
Just I love it. I have to say,
classic Piper finish.
Just
absolutely no offense, and a small package in the last 2 or 3 seconds. There's your win.
Beautiful. It's these are the things that need to happen more often in pro wrestling, because the finisher, it's not fucking Street Fighter or Mortal Kombat, where like you can only lose to your finisher. These things of like the little, because that can happen. A big man like Bobby there and then pulling the fucking tights so you can't even
and a big man like MVP hanging out of the leg.
And then MVP hanging out of the leg. It's like it keeps Drew strong.
Yeah.
I have to say he is on fire at the moment. I probably
They
will
both are.
backtrack.
They
I
both
probably
are.
by my own fucking volition, I will actually backtrack on what I said earlier about when Jay was making the point about there's a certain kind of tier of men that are, in that upper echelon, and that's why like the likes of Kevin Owens isn't there, and I can see it now, kind of now that I'm revisiting this match. I mean, I think Kevin Owens could easily be in the place of someone like, say, a Bobby
Should.
Lashley. Of the
Probably
Bobby
should.
Lashley, he could be, because he could be in there and being the chancer. Do you know what I mean?
Mm.
And he could get away with being the chancer, and like, he'd be the low blow kind of guy and stuff. But when you have someone like Bobby Lashley that looks like a fucking, I don't know,
Defying fucking biology and physics, Jesus Christ.
shoulders are ridiculous. Like,
Holy shit.
But Drew,
And I used to worry about when they broke up the Hurt Locker.
yeah, but I think Drew was just coming on fucking leaps and bounds.
I love him. I fucking love him.
Literally, and knowing the man firsthand, he's the nicest guy in the world, like legit, and it couldn't happen to a better person. Like,
isn't it nice to have a week where we can review a pay-per-view and it's really nice, and there was plenty of wrestling in it and lots of good action, and they sold the sell well.
Many a trope.
Yeah, many a trope. Not too much hokey kitsch. And all that good stuff. But yeah, this has been enjoyable. I really enjoyed this one. I'm really looking. I'm actually getting excited now about pay-per-views that come up now, rather than thinking it's a slog.
Isn't it a joy to love what we love again?
It is, without a shadow of a doubt. Gentlemen, pleasure reviewing Hell in a Cell, as always. Until next time, head over to YouTube, Dynamo Podcast Network. Audio versions of the show are available on Anchor. You can hit us up on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, the 4 Podmen. And as always, a pleasure, gents. We will talk to you again real soon.